So let's start with a big question. What if the very patterns that secretly connect us are the exact same patterns that control us? Okay, let's dive into this. Because this rabbit hole, it goes deeper than you can possibly imagine. We're going to connect the dots between the hard science of social networks and some of the most, well, profound and challenging ideas about the very nature of our reality. And believe it or not, it all starts with a single number.
6. That's it, just 6. What's so special about this number? Well, it might just be the secret key to understanding how our entire planet of 8 billion people actually works. You've probably heard of this, right? The 6 degrees of separation. The wild idea that you, right now, are connected to literally anyone on Earth, a fisherman in Japan, a CEO in Brazil, you name it, through a chain of no more than 6 acquaintances. It sounds totally impossible, but the math, the science, it all suggests it's not just possible, it's practically inevitable.
And this mind-bending interconnectedness, it's not some weird fluke. Nope. It's a fundamental property of how networks actually work. And really getting this is the first step to seeing the hidden architecture of power that's all around us.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. See, most of us live in what you'd call clustered networks. Just think about it, right? Your friends probably know each other. You live near your family. It's cozy, sure, but it means there are really long paths to people outside your little bubble. But, and this is the key, all it takes are a few random shortcuts. You know, that one friend who moved across the country, or that person you met at some random event. Those shortcuts instantly transform your world into a small world network. They dramatically, and I mean dramatically, shrink the distance between any 2 points on the globe.
And this chart just brilliantly shows the consequence. In a computer simulation of a disease spreading, a regular clustered network takes 73 days to infect everyone. But you introduce just a few of those shortcuts to make it a small world, boom, it drops to 26 days. I mean, look at that. That's almost as fast as a completely random network, which is just insane. So the crucial takeaway here is that those few random links give ideas, behaviors, and, yeah, viruses a superhighway to spread across the entire globe.
Connection is one thing. It's fascinating. But what happens when these exact same network dynamics are used not just to connect us, but to control us? This is where our story takes a much, much darker turn. So in another simulation, this time of the classic prisoner's dilemma, researchers found something absolutely fascinating. In those cozy clustered networks, cooperation thrives. It makes sense, right? You're dealing with the same people over and over. There's familiarity, there's trust. But in a small world network, where those shortcuts connect you to strangers all the time, defection and betrayal spread like wildfire. The very structure of the network can literally determine whether a society is built on trust or on selfishness. And look, this isn't just theory. This isn't just a computer game. Look at how it plays out in the real world, in the absolutely tragic case of Jerry Sandusky at Penn State. The institution itself acted like a highly clustered, highly protective network. When a mother reported abuse to the police way back in 1998, a full decade before the arrest, the case was closed. The network protected its own. It shut down the outside connection that could have exposed the virus of abuse that was festering inside. The same tight-knit structure that fostered loyalty also enabled a terrible secret to survive for years.
So inside these networks, you always get hubs. Think of a major airport, a powerful CEO, or an institution like Penn State. These hubs become critical control points. They concentrate power, they channel information, and they can either protect the system from outside threats or protect threats inside the system. They are the gatekeepers.
Okay, now let's zoom out. Because according to our source material, this pattern isn't just for scandals, it's the very fabric of our society. The family unit, the education system, the media, these are our first and most powerful networks. And they can function as social-level control grids, programming our roles, our beliefs, and what we even consider possible right from the moment we're born.
So this pattern of hubs and control is so fundamental that some philosophical and spiritual traditions see it reflected, well, everywhere, even at a cosmic scale. And this brings us to that old Hermetic idea, as above, so below. The sources we're drawing from here use a very specific and, you could say, metaphorical language to describe this cosmic model. They call it the Enochian matrix. And in this framework, our reality is a kind of compromise system. It was originally intended to be a school for souls, a place to experience separation and growth. But the story goes, it was hijacked and turned into a massive control grid, an elaborate harvesting operation run by what they call parasitic entities.
So who's running this cosmic prison? They're called the Wardens, or Watchers, And they're said to have split into 3 factions, each with its own method of control. The Light Watchers supposedly control us through our spiritual systems, creating dependency on saviors and gurus. Then you have the Dark Watchers, who control through emotional trauma, feeding on intense energies like fear and rage. And finally, the Technical Watchers, who control the physical world, manipulating genetics and pushing a worldview of pure materialism.
So, what's the motive? What's the point of all this? Well, the sources describe an energy economy. The idea is that these Watcher factions, having been cut off from the infinite energy of the divine source, became parasitic. They need to harvest our energy, our devotion, our fear, our very life force, just to sustain themselves and their control systems. In this model, human emotion is literally a currency.
So if that's the as above, the big cosmic picture, what does that mean for us, down here, the so below? How does this cosmic game actually play out in our individual lives?
Well, according to this framework, we aren't all here for the same reason. There are 3 basic archetypes. First, you've got volunteers. These are described as advanced souls who chose to come here to help, but their biggest risk is amnesia, forgetting their mission. Second, recyclers. This is said to be the majority of us, caught in a karmic loop of birth and rebirth, and often easily manipulated. And third, conduits. Souls so fragmented by trauma that they can become passive energy generators for the system. So the question the source poses is, where do you see yourself on this map?
And to keep us all playing this game, the system supposedly relies on an amnesia protocol, a series of veils designed to make us forget our true eternal nature. It starts with the trauma of birth itself, then it's followed by the deep programming of language and culture. Then comes the constant distraction of just trying to survive, then the conditioning of our social roles and rules, and finally, the accumulated wounds and traumas that wall us off from our own power.
And this is probably the most shocking claim from the entire source material. It suggests that the famous tunnel of light that so many people report from near-death experiences is actually a technological trap, a kind of soul catcher, designed to memory wipe us and then immediately recycle us right back into the system to keep producing energy.
Okay, I know. After all that, you might be feeling a bit bleak. But the entire point of this framework isn't to disempower you. It's the exact opposite. It's meant to be a manual for liberation. So the big question is, how do you break free? The first and most crucial step is learning discernment. You have to learn the difference between 2 kinds of suffering. See, there's suffering that serves your growth, the challenges that actually make you stronger and wiser. And then there's suffering for exploitation, that pointless, repetitive drama that simply feeds the parasitic energy economy. Learning to tell them apart, that's the master key. And this leads to some really concrete practices for what the sources call energy sovereignty. It's not about suppressing your feelings, it's about learning to feel your emotions without letting them hijack you. It's about consciously withdrawing your energy from the pointless drama that just drains you. It's about taking your personal pain and transmuting it into wisdom internally instead of just projecting it outward. And maybe most importantly, it's about learning to say a clear, guilt-free no to any contract or agreement, conscious or not, that doesn't serve you.
So, we've gone all the way from social networks to a full-blown cosmic conspiracy. But what is this matrix really? Is it a literal system out there, a map of our own minds? Or is it just a powerful story?
The sources themselves suggest there are 3 ways you can look at this whole thing. You can see it as a literal cosmology, kind of like an ancient Gnostic view of reality. Or you could view it as a psychological metaphor, where the Watchers are just parts of our own Jungian shadow that we haven't dealt with. Or you can see it as a powerful social critique, a model for how real-world institutions exert control over us.
So the real question isn't just what it is, but what it is for you. Which of these lenses helps you make the most sense of your own experience? Is it more useful for you to see these patterns as an external system to navigate, an internal map to understand your own psyche, or maybe a story that just reveals how power works in our world?
And this brings us to the final, beautiful, paradoxical takeaway. The most profound teaching in this entire cosmology is this: liberation isn't about escaping a prison. It's about realizing you were never actually trapped in the first place. You were only convinced that you were. And that realization, right there, that's freedom.